We're talking about breath.
I love breath work.
You really do love breath work so much.
I do so much.
Historically, I have not loved breath work, but I'm finding my way.
That's true. That's a journey for another day.
Mm-hmm.
What do you like about this particular breath work?
What I like about this one is that if we're talking about surgery prep and recovery, even if it's a surgery that you want and are excited about, sometimes that can involve some loss of agency or a sense of kind of being in someone else's hands literally for surgery. But there's so much we can do to care for our bodies and really take back that sense of having control over what is happening and having a lot of say. Yeah,
lots of agency to be found, sovereignty within our bodies. That's what I love breath. Kathy and Jesse talks about breath as an inner lever, and I really appreciate that because when I have nothing else, I have my breath, and my breath allows me to respond rather than react to my body, and others around me. So.
And breath is amazing for all kinds of things, including moving fluid through the body. So especially lymph, which is super important before and after surgery because it's helping to kind of clear things out, make sure infections don't happen or fight infections if that's happening, and moving swelling, like it's just such an integral part of healing that we really want to make sure that the lymphatic system is moving. And after surgery, there's often going to be immobility or you're going to be limited in the kind of movement, and the lymph system doesn't have its own pump like the heart, so it really relies on muscles and movement. So anything you can do to help encourage lymph, even when you're not moving as you usually would, is awesome.
Yeah, it was the first exercises I was able to reach for after my top surgery. You can't stretch your arms and body, but you can stretch your chest from inside, and that's pretty empowering, I found.
Yeah, definitely that.
Yeah, so you want to show us some breath exercises?
That sounds great. I'll get you to start just by taking a few natural breaths on your own and noticing where you feel the breath in your body. Cool. And if you check into the pelvis and the muscles in the pelvic floor, what do you sense there? Any movement, anything with the breath?
Yeah, there's this kind of window in here that's a little small compared to the bulk of my pelvis, but there's a window that has a lot of relaxation, and then there's tension far out, and there's kind of numbness in between. But I have this space right here I can breathe in and out of.
And how does it move with inhale and exhale?
An inhale, it kind of relaxes, and an exhale, pull up is way too strong of a term. There's just a slight lifting, so it's very fluid like this.
Sounds beautiful. The pelvic floor can be considered one of the diaphragms in the body. And if you think about the muscle of the diaphragm, if you've ever seen an image of it, it's sort of like a jellyfish. And so I like to think of that jellyfish-like movement, which sounds like a bit like what you're describing. So if we think of the pelvic diaphragm as being able to move that way, it's less like it doesn't have to be a Kegel, like a tightening. It can just be like so the pelvic floor for most people will move a little bit with the breath. We're not always used to noticing that, but that can be interesting to check in on. Yeah. All right, so this will be a breath to expand, like Ro was saying, kind of like stretching from the inside. So this is great for moving the lymph nodes that are around underneath the diaphragm. It kind of acts like a pump. It also massages the organs, and if you've had any kind of surgery that affects the shoulders, the pelvic floor, the chest, that's going to help create that gentle movement that you're going to want as you're healing.
Okay.
All right. May I put my hands on you?
Yeah.
Cool. I'm going to put one on the front and one on the back. And I'll ask you to feel your breath into my hands. So pushing my hands forward and backward. I'm going to bring my hands to the sides of your ribs. Can you fill into both hands? Yeah, awesome. Sometimes we think of...
It's a very different breath.
Yeah, we think of the chest rising and falling or maybe the belly, but to think about expanding sideways is different. Even at the back, sometimes we forget about the back of the body, so try just breathing into my hand at the back. Yeah, that's a bit even different than front and back, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And then we can come down and expand this front hand out. And now think about expanding into both my front and my back hand. Yeah, I can really feel the difference in that movement with the intention. And I'll offer one more, which is with the inhale, when you're thinking about that jellyfish of the pelvic floor, think about the pelvic floor or the anus kissing the earth. Open and kiss the earth. And that gentle lift with the exhale. So that kind of is a bit of a 360-degree. We've got front and back, we've got sides, we've got down. We're filling in all the way through the top to the bottom of the torso. Anything else you want to add with that one or cue for that one?
I like to explain to my clients, like when you ask like where do you feel your breath, most people will say up here, right? I've worked really hard for this to be my primary place. Most of us will breathe up here, but our lungs actually fill from the bottom up. So we're not using most of our lungs most of the time. So I have unusually long lungs for whatever reason. So when I feel my lungs fill up, it's like way down here, and then the diaphragm over them on top of it, right? Which feeling all of this go in. So I like to think like, how deep down can I fill up first, and can I like make my belly big? I like to like, let me pull my pants up to my high waist and like get my belly really big and full, like can you breathe way down, and can you breathe in the middle only, and can you breathe up here, and like notice the difference in the rest of your body when you're breathing in those different spaces.
This can also be interesting to play with depending on how your body is oriented. So if you're laying down, breathing into the back, you'll get a bit more feedback about if there's movement or not at the back. Putting your hands on the place you're breathing into can give that kind of proprioceptive feedback too. That can be helpful. And noticing if there's some places you feel the breath more or less, if there's more or less movement. Of course, there'll be more or less movement just physiologically also. But if there's some places that feel particularly like juicy and interesting to breathe into, or places that feel kind of stuck and there's not a lot of movement, you can try spending a bit more time or different depths of breath to see what kind of movement's possible in that part of the body. Yeah.
Okay. A lot of the pelvic bowl work that I do, we invite breath way down, you know, especially post-bottom surgeries of varying kinds. And anal breath is a big support for that. We've learned this through the work of Body Electric and Joseph Kramer, which is pulling from tantric lineages about how to invite that full tubal, because it's all a tube, it's all interconnected. And I also like to think about the way that the pelvic bowl mimics our throat. Mm-hmm. And if I'm opening and expanding this, and how am I opening and expanding that area? And I like to play with maybe like blowing up and out balloons and thinking about my anus or my pelvic bowl opening and closing with that. Or I went through there's a whole video somewhere about me playing with the harmonica while jacking off, and like using that remembrance with my breath to open and close my anus. And yeah, just encouraging you to play with your breath. You know, it can be like a very serious mindfulness thing where I sit down and I practice breathing. That's beautiful. Or it can be like, oh, let me pepper it through my day. You know, oh, when I'm sitting at a red light, let me take some deep breaths. Or it can be like, oh, I noticed that I've got tension in my shoulder. Can I send breath there? Or maybe it's, you know, ways to actually play. So just encouraging folks to find your own way to it.
Also thinking about the connection between the jaw and the pelvis, of which there are many. Relaxing your mouth and face can be really helpful for breath work too. So if that means massage, or maybe even stretching, or sticking out your tongue, that can be a really nice part of helping everything kind of integrate and soften.
Yeah, big fan. How do they find more?
We have a couple of other videos about pre and post surgery holistic body care that you can find on this channel, and you can also find us at Queer Scar Care on Instagram.
Yay.
Thanks.